Welcome to Emotional Support Water Bottle with Hannah and Ailish. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Ailish.
We got to finally see Sinners
Finally, it's been a long time
after all this
coming.
time.
Thank God it was still in theaters.
Yes, I definitely think we pushed it pretty close, though.
Yeah, we did. But it was worth it. It was worth the wait.
Yeah, it was a very cool, spooky
I
movie.
mean, I literally, like, when we barely talked about it yesterday because we just wanted to save stuff for the pod. But really, like, there wasn't anything about it that I really disliked. Like, of
Yeah,
course, there were like some things, like, it wasn't the all time perfect movie ever. I'm sure
right.
upon a rewatch, there might be some stuff where we're like, oh, but it still was so entertaining. It was so original. Like, I really enjoyed the whole thing.
I know, and I didn't get to do any more research on it like I wanted to, but just based on my own thoughts, it was really cool. And the scene, because I know there's like a scene everyone's talking about, and I'm not sure if it's the one where it's like all the different dancers and cultural stuff. Like that was just such a cool immersive experience.
I mean, it literally like took your breath away
I
almost.
know the way it was like, whoa. It's just like the way the camera would pan away and all of a sudden there's like a DJ spinning
Yeah.
and ugh,
And the sound, like the way everything sounded and how all the types of music blended together, like that was
yes.
so amazing.
I know.
Like, I
And
really
this
don't think I've ever seen something like that in a film before.
no, and I loved that this movie almost like we knew it was taking place because it told us what year it was taking place, right?
Yeah, like
Like, wait, was
30,
that this movie? Yeah.
32, I think. Yeah.
88 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I like how there was just all these modern elements just thrown in there, and it was just made it even cooler.
Yeah, because sometimes the movies that are like done in a certain period, it can feel a little dull. But this
Hmm.
didn't at all. Like, you like, we even made the comment, like, when we were in watching the movie, like, I can literally like feel what this would feel like walking in here, and even like you
Yeah.
could smell it, like
Yeah, I'm
it
like, I
just,
can smell this building.
yeah, like it created such an immersive experience that it transported you, but it wasn't just like, oh, it transported me back in time. Like, no, it transported me into this
World.
world. Yeah.
I know. And I did I started listening to the next big pictures episode on it. And because remember when I was talking about, I was like, did Haley Steinfeld get filler
Yeah.
because of the way the shadows were on her faces? But they actually said they felt like there was a lot of intense shadowing on some of it
Okay.
too. So I was like, okay, so I did like
Catch
notice
that.
that. Yeah, so
Well, it,
that
I
would
guess,
probably be my only, sorry, com I don't want to say complaint because most of it was good to see, but also it felt realistic too, because if you are just out in the middle of nowhere with barely any lights, like you are going to have the best lighting, period.
yeah, totally. And that feels reminiscent of like a vampire movie too.
Yeah,
Like,
like
just
the
kind of that,
shadows.
yeah, the darkness. But I would agree, there definitely were some times where it felt a little bit dark, just visually. But
Mhm.
yeah, like you said, yeah, it's going to be dark.
Still felt realistic.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't have lampposts everywhere. And so it did feel realistic. But that definitely changed like the tone and the look of the overall.
I know, because when we were in the daylight, man, the lighting was so crispy and
Yeah,
their costumes were just crispy.
I know. Yeah, I mean, that was the thing too. Like, costumes looked great, I thought. Like,
No.
Smoke and Stack looked fantastic. And I loved how they um showed with their clothes that they weren't, like, they hadn't been here, like, in, I don't even remember the town that it was, but like that they
The small
were,
town.
yeah, that like they were in Chicago and came back. Like, they
Yeah.
dressed like that.
Yeah, they had the dandyism.
Yes, which is so on theme.
I know. Who would have realized?
But when I was listening to uh I only got to listen to one episode of The Big Picture, not to be confused,
With next big picture.
but and they were kind of talking about, like, I didn't listen to the one that was all about the movie. I listened to one with, like, the first half was about it. So I can't wait to hear their whole take. But
Hmm.
they were kind of saying how, like, the movie put so much backstory and lore into one film, and like the timeline of the film is essentially one day,
Yeah.
but like we got all this stuff about, like, the twins, and like a little bit about their life when they were in this smaller town, and then when they moved to Chicago and what they were doing there, and then what's happening in the present. Like, we got such a comprehensive view of their lives in, like, what, a little over 2 hours.
Hmm. I know. I actually thought the pacing was pretty good. And it was, even though you're kind of like, what's going to happen? Like, we know we're going to get to these vampires, but how's it all going to play out? And it just played out so awesome.
I know, like, the first half of the movie, I guess, was all kind of setting the stage. And at times it did feel a little bit like, okay, when are we
Where
going
are
to
we
get the
going?
vampire? Yeah, where are we
Yeah.
going with this? But once we got to the second half, you kind of realized why they took that time to kind of set
Hmm.
everything up. So, yeah, but it was, like, interesting that we didn't even get, like, one glimmer of a vampire until, like, halfway through the movie.
I know. Except for the jump scares at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. But even that, you're like, what is that? Like,
I know. You're like, what
you
was that
still didn't
creature?
know.
Did he turn into one?
Right.
I know. And even just having that in the beginning just totally was like, oh, okay, we're going there. And then it like all of a sudden gets like kind of calm. And then we get a little bit of the violence. And then we get to meet all the people and what we're doing. And then it gets to the intense parts. Like
I
it's
know.
just so cool.
Well, and you could say that that's such a trope too, to start a movie like that. But the way that they did it, like, you had no idea what was going to happen. Like,
No.
I had no clue how, Sammy was going to get to that point one day
Hmm.
prior. Like, I was so like, what's going on? And even like halfway, like, even probably maybe, I don't know, three-quarters of the way through, I was still like, but how does Sammy get to where we saw him at the beginning? Like, I still
Right.
didn't know.
I know. And I also felt like I didn't know a lot going into this except for the vampire aspect. So everything just felt like a total shock, like those beginning parts, like I hadn't heard anything about that. And then just the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I like that we didn't look up a bunch of stuff or see any spoilers,
I know
because
because I know spoilers would have been such a bummer with this.
I know, like, it really would have. And I think I only saw like one, like little snippet. I didn't even watch the full trailer. So I don't know exactly what they did with that, but um like if they spoiled anything in there or not, like I hope that they didn't, because it was a ride to just watch it as it
I
is.
know we should almost watch the trailer now.
I know, I know.
Now that we've seen
One
it.
one thing that they said on the big picture was just talking about like some of the like interesting commentary with the I guess main vampire, the like Irish vampire
Mhm. That's
apparently.
sometimes Irish, sometimes not.
Yeah. And how like he used like welcoming and togetherness and acceptance as like the draw to try and get people to be in his little world. And I
Mhm.
thought that was just a really interesting, like I think on if I had reflected on it more, like I would have thought about that more, but just like racially, I that is such an interesting thing, like theme to have in this movie, because you could look at it like different ways. You could look at it as, okay, was he an ally like in his past life and he really believes that like, you know, people of different races and
Mhm.
statuses should come together? Or is he using that as like a ploy to try and bring people in and be like, no, you know, this is the way we should be. We're a family. But then he's like, you find out that he knows all their memories. And it's like,
Mm.
I mean, obviously he's like bad, but is he like a good bad guy or a actually bad guy?
Right, and it almost felt like a commentary on, like, the white savior. It's
Yes,
like,
and you said
"No,
that in the
come in."
movie.
Yeah, it's like that white savior complex. It's like, I'm accepting you," and then he makes them conform to what he's doing and doing, like, the Irish dance,
Yeah, and
which
we
was
said
such
too,
a
like, what a weird juxtaposition, because it's just not in, you know, every day that you see people who are black dancing to an Irish jig. Like that just isn't
right.
common, you know?
I know, and even just thinking too how we were just or you were just talking about how he, like, takes all their memories. It almost feels like that is, like, culture appropriation
Yeah.
too.
Cause he's like,
And
I know what, you know, what it's like. I can see it, you know? It's like,
right,
okay, well,
like, I'm an empath.
yeah, yeah,
But it is interesting too because, I mean, I'm you could probably attest to this more, but with, well, oh, that even could segue into our other topic with Wilder Valderrama, but having, being an immigrant from Ireland, they also, even though it's quite different than being a black person, but it was still oppression there for them.
yeah, totally.
But you still kind of wonder, was he actually Irish though? Like, or
I
was that
know.
something he stole? Like, did he steal that from that couple? From the initial thing, or was that just from forever ago, like his previous life, like you said?
Right, like you didn't know, because in the very beginning, where they kind of had that little history lesson of talking about the like storytellers through music and what they were in different cultures, like they do say, oh, this was, you know, what they were called in Irish culture.
Mhm.
So then it's like a little Easter egg for that later. But at the same time, you're like, yeah, it's we saw throughout the movie where he kind of can take the form of a lot of different people. So you
Right,
don't really know who he truly is.
right. And if And that's a interesting thing to think about too. Like, yeah, was he really a villain, or did he really have true or like meaningful intentions, as in like the white savior thing? It's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna take you in and everything's gonna be totally fine. And then it completely backfires and he just takes everything from them.
Right.
Super
Yeah,
interesting.
it was interesting. And
Because
then,
then we do end up, sorry,
no,
we
go.
do end up getting the true, you know, white villains at the end
Yeah.
in that incredible scene.
So I think I must have like heard it in one of the podcasts because I thought that I had heard with Sinners to stay for a post credit scene. But then I got confused because Thunderbolts came out at the same time and like, well, you know, a little different time, but same general time. And that Marvel always does that. So
Mhm.
when the lights didn't come up, when the credits rolled, I was like, no, we need to stay. This is a telltale sign. And
Yes.
thank goodness we did because it was like an extra 5 minutes.
I know it might have even been longer than that. That was a long scene.
Yeah.
And even to leading up to that scene when Sammy is like at the church and then his dad is like, no, that's the devil music or whatever. And he's like, no, I'm not doing this again almost. He's like,
I
I'm not
know.
getting tricked into a cult. I have to, especially after he went through like this crazy traumatic experience and was the only survivor at that point.
Yeah. Well, it kind of made you think too about how at the beginning when he was at the church talking with his dad and he had kind of those flashes of like demons and stuff.
Mhm.
It almost made you think too like to him this isn't his religion. Like
Right.
this isn't good for him either to
Mhm.
conform in that way. And so he's just like still gripping the one little part of his guitar that he had left and he's like I will not give this up. Like this
Mhm.
is for me. This life in the church and to be a pastor like my dad is not my path. And then he,
Mhm.
you know, ultimately runs away from that and creates his own path in Chicago. But that is like interesting because at the beginning you're kind of like, oh, are these flashbacks like to what he
Mhm.
experienced? Like you have no, is he did he turn to a vampire and is he gonna
Right.
attack the church? Like you had no idea.
Mhm.
So yeah,
It
it
was
was
a
just
bit, yeah. I know I feel like there's a ton to unpack with this movie. Like there's so much to it with but I do want to shout out the music too. There was a ton of music in this, and I had no idea there was going to be a ton of music in it. And man, just the way all their voice sounds, and the man who played Sammy, and we were talking about his voice was so incredible, and that singing, and even Michael B. Jordan's voice, like just like
yeah.
the accent and everything, and pretty much everybody's voice was just like it was a sensory experience.
Oh, I completely agree. Like the music was so powerful in this movie. And just like the sound in general, like another another part that really stood out was when the love interest of Sammy was up on the
Hmm.
stage singing her song. First of all, that song was so good. Like it was
I
you
know.
felt like the energy from
I know.
that. But
Does this have
then
a soundtrack?
I
Because
know, like, I need to listen to it. But then
literally.
her, like, stomping on the
Yeah.
stage, I mean, the way that was, like, reverberating through the whole theater into your body. And then it also was, like, keeping the pace of that scene going. Like, that was
Yes.
so powerful.
I know. It does have a soundtrack, by the way. But
Oh,
yeah, I know all all of the music was just amazing. Just when they would sit and sing or sing when they were doing something, it was
I know.
just
I cannot wait to revisit this movie. And I wish
I
that
know.
it was going to be in theater. Well, it has been in theaters for a while, but I wish that we would have been able to see it earlier. And then I probably would like go again to watch it, honestly.
I know because I feel like it's like that double-edged sword. It's like going into it completely blind, not looking for commentary or anything and just watching it. You don't pick up on some of that until you're thinking about it later, or you're like, man, I wish I could re-see that scene and how it all played out.
Yeah, I know. So I thought it was really good. Like Ryan Coogler is just like he and Michael B. Jordan, I think that they are going to be, the De Niro Scorsese of our time.
Hmm.
Where they already have like such a long history together with the Black Panther films and Fruitville Station and the Creed movies too. Like
Yes.
it's just like, winner after winner. Like they are doing some really amazing things. But the fact that this one was completely original and it's doing as well as it is and getting like the hype is so deserved. Like I just think that this is going to take both of their careers into a whole nother dimension.
I know. And just as a quick on Michael B. Jordan, I really felt like when you were watching it that there just was two actors. Like there really was
I
twins.
did too.
Like you almost just suspended your belief because it was done so well. And even when we were watching it, we're like, I don't understand this technology. Like I know, like when it first started, it's like I knew that's two Michael B. Jordans, or like it's the same guy. But as the movie kept going on, it was like, no, that like they started to look different to me, even though they had like the same hair and the same facial hair and everything. But as it kept going on and we kind of got to know each one of their personalities, I'm like, oh no, there's two people there.
I know. And I guess that really is just a testament to how he played the characters. And like, that's kind of
Hmm.
the way it is with twins, right? Like, from at first glance, they are the same. But then once you get to know them, you're like, oh no, clearly they do have differences. And I felt
Hmm.
like we very quickly picked up on that as the
Hmm.
movie went forward. Because at the first part where we saw them and they're buying the old factory, it was really almost like it was like a little bit cheesy because they're just like
Yeah.
standing there together the whole time. And I was kind of concerned a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, is this just gonna be a cheesy twin thing? But
Right.
as it moved on, no, like it did not. And I think the way that like after um they pick up Sammy and then the Smoke and Stack like have their different missions almost,
Hmm.
that really helped because you got to build both of them as separate characters.
Hmm. I know it was so interesting. Yeah, just to like look at them and I'm like, oh no, they look different. Like it's two different people.
Yeah, how is it possible?
I know, and but yeah, that is really cool how they did that. And it's like I get like if we're looking at one and then we see the behind the other one, it's obviously a stand-in. But some of
Yeah,
those scenes though, it just felt like two different people were there.
I know. Yeah, he did a really good job, I thought, just throughout the whole movie in both of the roles. And then because we didn't know, having not looked anything up, we're like, well, is one of them going to die at the
Right.
beginning and then he's just playing one, or will he play two roles the whole time? And he pretty much played two roles the whole time.
I know because I almost saw it. I'm like, oh, one's gonna die from the vampire thing and the other one's gonna seek revenge. Like I almost thought it was gonna be
Yeah,
a revenge movie, and when it wasn't that, but I mean like a little bit, but not really. I was really surprised. Like I just really had no idea where they were gonna go with it.
Me either. Me either. So how
And I
I know that we haven't looked stuff up about it, but how do you think that they did that? Like, do you think that Michael B. Jordan filmed all the stuff with what, like smoke first and then everything was stacked? Or like,
I have no I literally have no idea.
because even thinking from just like a production standpoint, like I think it would be really difficult for an actor to get in the mindset of one character and
Yeah.
then the next day have to play a different one. But I don't know.
I know. I literally have no idea. Especially because the one after he turns into a vampire, he's a lot more like jovial
Yeah,
and silly kind of in a way.
yeah.
And then Smoke is clearly a lot more serious anyway.
Hmm.
And so it's just like, I don't know, he's more cutthroat than Stack was in the first place, but then when Stack's the vampire, it's just such a huge difference
Yeah.
between the two.
I am thinking of just like the vampire portion of it too. The other thing that was brought up in the big picture was how they didn't fall into the traditional vampire tropes where they're deterred by crosses or holy water and stuff like that, even though religion was a part of this film. They kind of separated those two things, and I like that because it just, I think it would have taken the film in a whole different direction if
Yeah.
like the church was what saved them in a way.
Yeah. Instead of instead of somebody else saving them, they're all kind of saving themselves and almost staying true to their beliefs and
Yeah,
everything. Like, no, I'm going to keep to myself, especially with Sammy.
yeah. I did like how they had to still be let into the home
I know, I thought that was a really funny thing to do.
and to keep that, because I think I don't know if it's 100% only vampires, but I know that we've heard that before with other like demonic
Yeah,
presences.
and yeah, where you have to let them in
Yeah. But
in the way that,
oh, go ahead.
no, I was just to say the way it was literally like, no, you can't come in unless
Yeah.
we tell you.
Yeah, and how when it first occurred with Haley Steinfeld with her being, why do we always want to say
I know I
Stein?
was going to say Seinfeld. It just rolls off the
I
tongue
know.
better.
Where we knew that she got changed, but we just didn't really know how things were going to
Yeah,
go.
because we didn't see the gash on her neck.
Yeah, and it was just so cool how she went up to Cornbread and she's like, "Well, are you gonna let me in? Like, what are you
Yeah,
doing?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, come on in." Like you almost don't even catch it the first time,
right.
and
You're
then
like,
it
we're pretty
becomes,
sure she is, but we don't have a confirmation yet.
I know, and then it becomes more obvious as more people are changed and they're literally saying like, well, are you gonna, like when Cornbread is changed and he's like, well, let me in so I can help. It's like, okay, now we know that they need to be let in and who's changed and who isn't.
I know, and even the scene with that one woman's husband, the store owner's husband, when he's like, that one guy is like getting brutally attacked. He's like,
Yeah.
come on, I got the cars warmed up. Just come on out. Let's go. And it was so that stuff, even though it was funny, it was so eerie and
I
spooky.
know.
And I love that even though the vampires did look scary a lot of the times, that they didn't though. And
Yeah.
they seemed really welcoming and warm, like, oh, come on, everything's fine over here. Like that almost made it scarier the way they were having fun and being like, you know who I am. Like, let's
Yeah.
just go.
Like, everything's fine. We promise it's going to be better. Wait until you see. Like, that
Right.
really does draw you in to that,
Mm-hmm.
their life.
I
Yeah,
know.
I really liked it. I'm so glad that we got to see it in theaters. I think it lived up to all the hype for all the naysayers out there that didn't think it was going to do well in the box office. I think it most certainly is going to make 250 million. I think the last I had looked, it was almost there. It was over 200.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is a huge success for a horror movie and for something that is original and not IP.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking up to see what the box office is right now. If it will load, but I want to say it was like 230 or so. I don't know. It was pretty darn close. And now, of course, it's not loading. So I guess somebody else in the world who listens to our pod can just look up those numbers for themselves.
Okay.
But yeah, it was definitely well, oh my god. This says
Yes.
it like
287
yeah,
worldwide. So
that's crazy.
I almost, because my husband was like, so is it going to be an Oscar movie? And I leaned on the no. And I don't know if it making this much helps that either. Like it like it's a commercial success.
I know it's such a hard thing, but on the big picture, they were saying like with the nominations for like The Substance and some other movies that are a little bit, not your typical Oscar bait films, it's like they could easily get like casting, like that one's coming out. Like is that next for next Oscars or the
I
year
don't
after?
know if that, I almost think it was the year after.
I know. I always thought
Yeah, I guess I don't
2027.
know if they meant which season they meant when they
Yeah,
said it was. Anyway.
but we could get original song for sure. I think like the music in this was so good. You could certainly get like a hair and makeup and costume design, because look at how many nominations Wicked got.
Yeah, but Wicked came out on Thanksgiving.
That's true. It was much later in the year.
I know, I wonder why they chose. Well, because then I told him, I was like, I don't think that was this guy's, like his goal was to be an Oscar movie.
Yeah, I don't
So
think
then
so.
I'm kind of like, it's just interesting that he chose, because this would have been a good Thanksgiving movie, like kind of around spooky season, but coming into,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But the movie looks like the setting is summertime, so it was kind of nice to have it like in the spring. Like we could feel how hot it was where they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just surprised that they decided to do an April release for this.
I am too. However, again, on the big picture pod that I listened to, they were saying how maybe they'll do a re-release around October for Halloween and just be like, it's in theaters for 2 weeks and it's in only in IMAX, or it might not be in all of our theaters around us, but that could also, if they choose to do that, that could maybe generate more Oscar buzz, because that'll be toward the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you. I don't think that it was anybody's goal to win Oscars or awards with
Mm-hmm.
this movie. I think it was just, there's a lot of other commentary around this, and just the fact that it's an entertaining movie. It's something fresh and new, even though it's a vampire movie. I've never seen a vampire movie like that before. Um, yeah, it was a win for me.
Yeah, it was really good.
So I guess after talking about how wonderful this movie is, we can transition to our book club book, which was An American Story by Wilmer Valderrama.
And that is definitely the theme he stuck to.
Yep, I will say to kind of connect these two, in addition to the immigration plot point that you brought up earlier, I did not know a lot about this book. I hadn't read or listened to any reviews. So I was also going into this kind of blind. And I was surprised, not necessarily pleasantly surprised, but I was surprised with the turn that this book took, or just the overall theme of this book.
I know. And I think that is a very interesting, positive, uplifting tale to tell. I think that was a crazy, I get why they chose to do this. Like, hey, you've got all this stink on you. Let's make a book that makes you relatable and optimistic and a good example for people. And then he just doesn't address any of the stink that's on him.
That's what the wildest part was. I mean, we basically, the book kind of starts out about his life. We do get a picture of what things were like growing up, and oh, okay, we're setting the scene. But then really past that, like once he got into acting, it really felt like we were just completely surface level throughout.
Yeah, we didn't
everything.
No, he doesn't talk about his dating life at all, which is pretty unusual in a celebrity memoir.
Yeah, and given how much we know about his dating life,
his underage girlfriend.
Yeah. That is interesting. I mean, I suppose I know why you wouldn't want to include that, but it's
right.
This book was just like such a testament to, oh, you're literally writing your own history here.
Yeah, I know. And it just seems like, how can you go through your life and not talk about it all? Because I think he was with Demi Lovato for 6 years or something, for a very significant amount of time. And I do think there should have been, and who knows if there's other reasons why he didn't talk about his relationships, but it just felt like he's spinning this narrative of, I'm a good guy, even though I've been associated with some of the worst guys.
Well, because even when he talked about that 70s show, we didn't get anything about Danny Masterson, which I understand that maybe legally that is something that is, you can't talk about, but there's, right. I mean, it wasn't even alluded to.
No, he said very minimally. I think he was even just talking about meeting them, or
Yeah.
and I think he said he was with him when he was in that plane, not quite almost crashing, but the emergency landing. I think he mentioned him there, and they were leaving a party. I don't know, my guy.
I mean, he pretty much didn't even utter his name.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because he worked with him for so long. Obviously they were friends.
And even when he was speaking about that 70s show, he that is he talks about it in a way of this was great. I was making all this money and doing all these amazing things for my family, which I believe was happening. But and then it was like he kind of talked about like, oh, we were like a family kind of, but he really doesn't get into it. And that was such a huge, significant part of his life for many years, and we get basically nothing about it. And it's like, well, what else am I going to think other than you were partying with these nefarious people doing nefarious things?
Well,
And
and
that's why you're not
even
talking about it.
right, and even when he did mention it, yeah, like I went to these parties. I could get what I wanted in clubs. We would go here on vacations and do this and that.
Hmm.
And I'd bring my whole, posse. Like he never even said like he wouldn't admit to anything that he had done that maybe was untoward. Like he would always be like, "Well, yeah, drugs were around, but I never had a part of that."
He's like, I just never had the, desire to do drugs. And it's like, okay, I guess I'll believe that. I
Well,
don't know, but
yeah,
it's
and
like
it's
oh, but
not
you were
even
probably
right. You're probably
drinking and
telling
doing everything else.
right, like it's not that I don't want to believe that somebody who's in that situation could not live like that. Like I believe that people do have, self-control, and just
Right.
because they're in Hollywood and going to clubs and doing stuff doesn't mean that they're off the rails. But it's just like you're telling me that you were in a relationship with Lindsay Lohan at her peak when she was like not doing well. Let's just
Right.
say it.
And Demi Lovato's
Yeah.
talked nonstop about her drug addiction, and you were with her during that. And it's
Like,
like,
so you're basically saying either you're denying any culpability, like, no, I never had anything to do with that. When we know then that you were around people who had apparently maybe they weren't significant in their life, even though it seemed like they were with relationships, but like you were just allowing this to happen in front of you and like
what?
getting in relationships with people who had addiction problems, like
I know
that
it
doesn't make
almost makes
sense.
you right. It's like it almost makes you seem worse that you were not actively participating in this stuff and you were letting them, everybody has their own autonomy as adults, but it's like you're just
Yeah.
witnessing these spirals and
Well,
doing nothing about it soberly.
it wasn't like they were like Demi and Lindsay were very much in the press for
Yeah.
the addiction problems that they were going through. And I know we didn't know like the extent of Demi's until a bit later, but it's like they were clearly in the throes of their struggles while you guys were together, and you don't even mention at all that you were in a relationship, or that even really that you were like around, even if you didn't like mention their names, that you never
Right.
once even said like it was so difficult because I wasn't in loving relationships with people who did suffer from addiction and who were using drugs, and that was difficult for me because that was like he never even said that.
No. Not at all. And that kid even made him sympathetic too. Like, wow, it was so hard to watch someone I
Yeah.
love suffering so deeply and I had no control over it, or I didn't realize how truly bad it was, or anything. Like, there's just nothing. Zip.
Which is so strange, and that makes you feel like what else was going on. Like it just makes me very suspicious.
Yeah, it's like, were you supplying the drugs? Like, that's what I'm thinking now because
Yeah.
you are so elusive about it. Yeah, and it's like, I know you still talk to that 70s show people, and it's just, you're not, I don't know, it was so odd.
It was very strange. It was almost like just like we said, you are writing your own, you're in control of your own narrative, or at least you think you are. Because there's all this stuff circulating online and in the history of pop culture about him. But then he tried to put this book out, a decade or so later, and in the hopes that we would just erase all that from our memory. Like, I
Right.
believe that he,
Like, I was there, buddy.
right, like, but I honestly, like, after I finished this book, I had to Google and look at Reddit threads to confirm that some of his bad behavior, or some of the things about his life that are not really
Suspicious.
acceptable, yeah, that they existed and that people were still talking about it, because I was seriously like, hold on, did we just forget about all this stuff? And then thankfully I was proven correct that people do still remember it when I found multiple Reddit threads of it being a discussion.
Hmm.
But people on there were also like, why aren't we still talking about this? Like, where it's like he's burying the lead with this book.
I know it is interesting how certain people are able to, that are in the celebrity world, get away with things like that and not have it ruin his reputation, because I haven't really followed his career, and I'm just kind of listening to what he's saying was going on with his career. But it's like he had a pretty good, solid career, like working more than I even thought. I didn't even realize he was in Encanto.
Me either.
And I didn't even know that he was part of Handy Mandy either.
I didn't know that either.
Or
I
Handy
had no
Manny.
clue. Yeah, Handy Mandy.
That just
But
sounds better.
I know it does. Rolls off the tongue just like Haley Steinfeld. But
Hmm.
I didn't know that either. And it's like, okay,
That's
I
a
guess,
good check, man.
yeah, like, I guess you've been booked and busy. That's great. And like, I'm not trying to deny that he doesn't do a good job in roles that he has, or that like he doesn't support his family or give back to, meaningful causes. I
Yeah.
believe that he does those things, but it's just really bizarre to try and use all of that to kind of wash away the stink.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I totally believe that he believes in immigration and immigration rights, and that that's really important to him, and that his family means a lot to him. But yeah, it's like I'm not stupid though
Right.
either.
And it was just weird too, if we're just speaking about like the relationship part of it, how we didn't hear one single thing about any woman that he really even encountered, like, if we're being honest.
Right.
The
I mean,
whole
it's like
time.
I don't expect the Motley Crew
Yeah.
or
But I
anything like,
expected a bit more given that you had
oh,
high profile relationships. But and then we hear about, all of a sudden the skies opened up and a
you know,
beam of light was
a
shining.
young
Like,
model, a gorgeous blonde model.
okay, like, and we just knew, that we connected on a deeper level. And I'm like, all right, so you're not
Gag.
only curating your life story, but you're curating your love story too.
At the age of 45, he
Yeah,
was finally
and
ready to
he found
settle down.
a fresh, young 27-year-old. I don't know exactly how old she was, but
Yeah, I
I
don't know
know
how
there's
old he
at
was
least
when
a
that happened,
10-year age difference.
at least, because there's no other way to do it. I did want to, like, I think the angle of the immigrant, like coming from immigrant families and trying to have the American dream, like, I believe that was his dad and his family's goal. But I do think, I don't know, just that he got to become rich and famous. That's not every immigrant's experience.
No,
In fact, many
certainly
have
not.
very terrible experiences.
Well, and I guess I don't know. I know that it's different coming from certain countries and
Right.
everything like that, but clearly, like, his family, and this isn't to like
And it was a different time as
Yeah.
well.
This isn't to like go like, say anything negative about his family and that to try to allude that they didn't work hard and whatnot, because they clearly did. But it just seemed like they already kind of had a bit of an in, because they were
Right.
in Miami, right? Was where they were at
Yeah,
the
and then they
beginning.
went back to Venezuela, and
Yeah.
then they ended up moving to California with family, right?
Yeah. So it kind of was like, not every immigrant story, I would say not, most immigrant stories aren't like that, especially now. I mean, we've got people that are coming over with nothing, and he did say that. He acknowledged that
Right.
in his book, but it's just like, you know, I don't think that a lot of people who are immigrants can necessarily relate to his experience, because he seemed to have some advantages to begin with. And then obviously, most people aren't jumping into the freaking, film industry and able to get classes for acting, and that is, I know he works hard, but that still is just not a typical scenario for an immigrant.
Right. Like that's amazing for him, but that is not, I don't know. He just, the way he was presenting it, he's like, this could totally happen for you. And I guess theoretically it could,
Yeah.
but it's like,
What are the odds?
right, right. Something I did think was kind of cool. I don't want to say cool about him, but interesting about him was that he really was pretty but okay, so if you're just like a super handsome, likable guy, it's like, yeah, you are gonna have a lot more open doors for you. But I did still think it was cool when he was like, I didn't have an agent, but I just called and pretended like I had an agent.
I
I'm like,
know.
gosh dang it, why didn't I do that? Especially
Like,
back then, because you just could have. And
right.
he's like, yeah, I'm getting all these like cool auditions. And then like his first big audition, he ends up getting that 70s show.
And he just like made up, like, I made up somebody's name that I thought it sounded like an agency. Like, what do you mean? Oh,
Okay.
he said that in the one audition he just made up names of an agency and an agent. And it's like,
Yeah,
what do you mean you just guessed and made something up and hoped that
but it
nobody would
worked.
check it out?
And it worked.
Yeah, it worked perfectly according to him. I don't know if he's a reliable
Yeah.
narrator,
Right.
but
I
I
mean,
mean, it was just and even like his involvement with the troops and stuff, I do remember. I think that that's stuff that we would see all the time with
yeah.
celebrities, especially right after 9/11, with going out to those in Afghanistan or
Right,
Iraq.
like Jessica Simpson would do it, like everybody was doing it.
I mean, we had so much press about that. And I think that that's wonderful that he felt passionate and wanted to give back to the military. And like, that's a great thing. But it was just another thing where it's like, okay, you're putting another feather in your
I know,
cap.
America,
Yeah.
support our I know, and yeah, it was just a lot. He was definitely praising himself a lot. And
Yeah.
even when he was talking about Yo Mama, which I totally forgot about
I
that
did
show.
too.
That was like a blast from the past. And he's like, yeah, this just really changed lives. Like when we would travel around and we
I
would give
know.
all these people, which like it probably did, I guess, but he's like, look what I did. Look at all these contacts I made.
I
Look
know.
at how
It
I
just,
made the first this and the that.
yeah, he's like, I had these ideas and I brought it to my agent, and then we got it, put together, and everyone said it was so good. It's like, okay, cool.
Right. And it's like he is a charming guy, but I guess
Yeah.
the book just didn't feel genuine. Like I don't know. I just know there's more into the story, and he only gave us the fluffy
Well,
good stuff.
that was obvious, like there was so much more that could be discussed here, but he didn't want to go there. Which
Mhm.
there's some things where I can respect that and understand, like you don't want to talk about that in your memoir, but then what's the point of writing it? I guess I didn't really understand if was the point of this to just say like, hey, I'm an immigrant and I got successful and you can too.
Me or not? Oh, I cut out for a second.
Gosh,
I know, and it was just such a PR move.
yeah, totally.
Like I think it maybe would have landed better for me personally if it would have came out maybe a couple years after it came out.
Yeah, and I mean, it. I think I would have felt a little bit different about it too, but also I still would have questioned why is there so
The
much
motive here.
missing? Yeah,
Like what you do. Yeah, and it's not even that long after all the Danny Masterson stuff came out.
I know.
And it's like I'm not blaming him for that, but it just I don't know.
It's just so murky.
Yeah, and then I guess I'm kind of like, and I know Ashton and Mila wrote the character letter or whatever, and I don't think he did do
Yeah, I
anything
didn't look
like
that up.
that. Um, but why are they getting such excessive hate when this man is also very involved? And I mean, I guess I don't truly know their relationship right before all that happened because he doesn't tell us about it.
Yeah,
But
but he didn't have any problem mentioning Mila and Ashton in this book.
right.
So that's
It's
kind of
like,
interesting too. Like,
right, like why is he getting away with it when Ashton and Mila have been destroyed?
yeah, and then if things that particularly have been said about Ashton Kutcher, if those are true, then why are you fine with associating with him and not
Yeah,
other people on the
a
cast?
convicted person,
Yeah,
which is interesting just thinking about that too. I guess I haven't really heard like Wilmer Valderrama get thrown into the conversation or
neither.
Laura Pep Pepron
Yeah, I haven't either.
much either. So that is kind of interesting.
Or even, I mean, Topher Grace too has really separated himself
Yeah.
in a way that the others, well, I mean, particularly like, I guess just Ashton and Mila like weren't able to do. And it just makes you wonder, like, who was involved in stuff then? Or like
I
who
know. Or like,
knew?
what
Maybe
did
not
they
even,
know?
yeah, maybe
Or
not
like, is
even,
that why? Sorry, the overlapping is so
I
hard.
know.
Um, yeah, because Topher Grace has really distanced himself even before all this and doesn't
Yeah,
want to be associated with any of these people. So you just gotta wonder, like, what was known, what wasn't. If you're still really close with Ashton Kutcher was definitely still close. I mean, they had with Danny Masterson, they had the ranch or whatever
oh
show.
yeah.
So it's like,
Well,
I don't
and
know.
just given the stuff that has kind of come out, and I admittedly haven't like dug deep into the Danny
Right.
Masterson case files here, but just the bits and pieces of things. He was. This wasn't like a new thing that started happening after that '70s show. Like
Right. They
I
were all
think,
partaking in that pop
yeah,
culture partying of the time where it was like all
right.
these young kids just partying and stuff. So it's like, yeah,
I
this has
just
probably
have a
been
hard
going on for a
time.
ton.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that like you spent all these years on set with this person, and obviously you would do things outside of filming too, and never once you were like, oh, that's a little
Strange.
odd.
Yeah.
I feel kind of uncomfortable with these decisions, or where we are right now, or what's happening. Like, you
Right.
it's just
Because
odd.
right, because in a way, it's like he wasn't holding Danny Masterson accountable in this book or any of the actions that he did, and it just feels like, are you not saying anything because he has stuff on you, or other people
Yeah.
have stuff on you, and you don't want to call somebody else out because you're just as bad? Like, I'm just really skeptical of him at this point.
Well, and when you don't kind of, if you're going to write a memoir and then you don't put everything out there, it when we know other details, it kind of like leaves room for our mind to just
To
wander and
wander.
fill in the
Yeah.
blanks ourselves.
Right, because I'm like, clearly he's just as guilty. That's why he's not calling out Danny Masterson, or,
Yeah.
or he's not
Yeah.
bringing up the Demi Lovato thing because he supplied her with drugs, or
Right. Or like she was young, not necessarily underage, but she was
I
young.
thought,
He's not
wasn't
gonna
she though? Like at first, I thought she
Well,
was
there's a
7.
pretty good age gap with them.
I feel like there's a lot of murky water. Like, because didn't she come out with this song and she was like, I don't know, whatever. It's still weird.
So they, yeah, dated on and off for 6 years before pulling the plug in 2016. So in 2010 was when they would have started dating. A 12-year age gap. Lovato was 17 when they first met, and
God.
Valderrama was 29. They started dating, quote unquote,
Right. Yeah,
when
we know
she
what that
turned
means.
18.
Hmm.
So he was 30 and she just turned 18.
Hmm.
It's just interesting. And Lindsay Lohan was also 18
Yeah, which means 17.
when she dated him in 2004. They publicly debuted their relationship at Lohan's 18th birthday party in
Exactly.
2020 or 2004.
Hmm.
They were first spotted together in May when Lohan was still 17.
I rest my case.
The jury is released.
And again, not that he was the only one doing that, but he really does not want to talk about it, I guess.
Okay, here I didn't even know about this. Apparently, when Wilder Valderrama was on the, I think it was Howard Stern, he discussed his relationship with Mandy Moore.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
This
It was
says
also
when would have been young
took
when
her virginity, didn't he?
I believe so. When Valderrama tries to explain what helped him gain attention of women, Stern chimes in, roofies, to which the actor jokingly replies, one, that's the silent fact. He also boasts that he took Mandy's virginity, claiming the sex with Mandy was good, but it wasn't like warm apple pie. Where's that in your book,
That's
Wilmer?
it. You didn't, like, he literally could have said, like, you could have had a whole little paragraph about how I didn't respect women, I
Yeah,
wasn't mature. Like, you could give us something, like, you little rat. I'm
I
so over him
know.
now.
It's literally like insane. Like you gave you statements and interviews that are documented about
With
these.
you?
It's like you're gonna pretend none of that happened.
I know, like, that just, like, I just want to take that book and rip it up. Like, what?
I know. It's just so gross. They
It is
dated
gross.
for
In the
two
company he kept.
years,
How many?
too. So let's see how old Mandy Moore is. When was Mandy Moore born? In 84. And they started dating in 2000. So, yeah, she was what? Is that 16?
How old was he?
No, I guess they would probably be closer in age,
Close
right?
to me. I would think, but
let's see when he was born. Okay, actually, wait, what the? Oh, he's 4 years older than her, so he was 20.
oh God. Wait, would she have been 16? When did they
Yeah,
date?
yes.
You're a little snake. He's a snake.
It's
Get out of here.
so crazy that you're just
Lies.
gonna
It's all
pretend
lies.
none of that happened. And then just be
Yeah.
like, my wife, we have the strongest, best ever relationship. Like, that's the only relationship you even bring up in your book.
That's the only one that means anything to him.
It's
Yeah,
just
well, I'd love to talk to
wild.
the women that you not
Wow.
impressed.
Well, you heard it here first, everyone. Not really, because that tea is like 20 years old, but
We're just
still.
reminding you.
Yeah, we're putting
Facts
the
are
pieces
facts.
together right now, all in one segment here. It's
Yikes.
just,
Yeah. You know, it's like he does fool you a bit in the book. Like if you
yeah,
don't
he
have,
does.
you're like,
You're
man,
literally there
what a
like,
great guy.
yeah, you're there like,
True
wow.
American story.
Well, and the other interesting thing is about his relationship with his current baby mama is that they're not even married. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're engaged and they've been engaged for a few years now, but it's like, does he not want to fully commit to her?
Right. Because didn't he kind of play it off like it was a COVID thing, like COVID
Yeah.
happened?
It's like, well, you guys,
Hmm.
I think
COVID's
one kid and she's pregnant now, or she recently had the baby. I don't know which.
mm-hmm.
But it's like, you guys can't get married even though this is such a strong, meaningful, beautiful relationship. Why won't you get married then? When you know that that's something that he makes it seem like that's important to him.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just makes you really question even more his motives and his proclivities with relationships.
Mm-hmm. Or like just the way he treats women in
Yeah,
general. It's very interesting, that is for sure. So I guess because of all that, and obviously he could be a changed man, but it does make me take the book. But if you really felt like you were changed and you would have acknowledged it a little. So just like I want to just take the book and be like, none of this matters or this is disingenuine and it's just a PR move.
yeah, it just felt like a puff piece,
Mm-hmm.
the
Or
whole
like
thing.
I could have got a Wikipedia and found that you were in Encanto and Handy Manny.
He could have just written his own Wikipedia page and we wouldn't have been none the wiser and thought he was such
You're
a
like, well,
wonderful
that
person.
about sums it up.
Yeah. So yeah, it almost was just like kind of delusional too. Like, do you
It
really?
was
Is
like
this how
it's
you see
right
yourself?
because it's like it's a good book, but it's false. I
Right.
don't know.
So yeah, I wouldn't recommend this one. That's for sure. I just felt
Yeah,
like it
save
was,
your breath.
yeah, it really, if you're looking for any type of insight into somebody's career like you often get in these memoirs, you're certainly not going to get it here. So I mean, you hear some things about his acting career and stuff, but you don't get any type of interesting insight. It's just all very surface level.
No, and even when he does try to get a little bit deeper with like what it was like, he didn't really know English and he had to go to a school that spoke mainly English. It's like he really doesn't even fully, and I'm sure because he turned out so successful, he's pretty healed from that. But even that, it's like, man, I wish you would have got into that a little bit more because a lot of people could probably relate to that.
Yeah, what a struggle.
Yeah, it's like we don't even get a whole lot there. Just like everything turned out fine, so
Yeah,
that's the best part. And I guess that's a good mindset to have.
but it doesn't make for a good book.
No.
So anyway, I can't believe that we had to wait so long for that one.
I know, and people are dying to read it for some reason.
I know.
Probably trying to also hear if there's any gossip on or any acknowledgement of Demi Lovato or Danny Masterson.
Yeah, well, spoiler alert, there's absolutely none. So if that's what you're looking for in the book, you can save your time and give it a pass.
Yes.
All right, should we move into the movies that we watched this week?
Yes.
Which one would you like to start with?
Let's do um let's do mid 90s.
Okay. We don't really have a clear theme for this week.
Yeah, I mean
So
there's like child actors, Jonah Hill. There's a little bit of a
true. We
theme
haven't
going
done
there.
the hill. Yeah.
There's a correlation. We had to flip around this week a little bit, but
Yeah.
so
So,
this is written and directed by Jonah Hill, which I remember. I was surprised this came out because I think it was like 2018 because I
yeah.
remember him doing a ton of press for this, but I had never seen it, and I was surprised it was that long ago.
Me too. Because I really also didn't know a whole heck of a lot of, like, was it in theaters, whatever, but I remember
Yeah.
the kind of still shot of the boy with
Hmm.
mid-90s, but it was really just a blip.
Yeah, I just remember that press, and that was it.
However,
Okay.
if we're talking about the success of the movie, I suppose for his directorial debut, and this being original content here, it did do well. It was 100. It cost $1.7 million, and then it made 9.3 in the box office. So, I mean, I think for a movie like this, that is certainly considered a success.
Has he written or directed anything since?
I don't. I want to say no.
I know because I haven't heard anything. I actually
Yeah.
haven't heard much from him since that whole girlfriend thing, but I mean, that was
Well,
at least a year or two ago.
are you surprised by that?
Mhm.
I mean, that was a huge bit of stink that got brought on him after that. So he's probably laying low for a little while. Even though that's such a bizarre thing because it kind of blew up and then just completely went away.
Yeah, because he didn't respond in any way.
Mm-hmm. I'm
But in the movie, I that main character, the kid, and I get this was probably the point, but he looked so young and he was so small that I was so uncomfortable with some of the stuff. Like it was just hard to watch, and I mean, obviously, young, small kids do partake in some of that activity, but man, was it hard to see. It's like, oh gosh.
Before we move into that, I agree with you. I just looked up if he had directed other stuff. And he's done a couple music videos. He did one episode of a TV series, and then he had that movie Stutz about his with his therapist, which I
Oh
forgot about
yeah, I
that one.
forgot about that.
Yeah. And that was the last thing that he had come out before everything with the ex-girlfriend, and that was in 2022. And it
I
says that
totally
he
forgot.
has something coming up called Outcome. Hollywood star Reef follows Hollywood star Reef as he is forced to confront his problems and atone for his past after being threatened by bizarre video footage from his past. Keanu Reeves, Matt Bomer, Cameron Diaz.
Oh, out of
So
retirement again.
for Jonah Hill, of all people. But anyway, aside from that, I completely agree with you about the main character being, it was like jarring to
I know,
watch
and
him.
right, and I'm sure that was the point, but wow, it
Like
was hard.
it made me like just really scared. Like the whole time I was watching this, I know that we're
Weren't you?
not living in like LA or anything, but
Right.
like I couldn't stop thinking about your sons and just being like,
I
"Oh my
know.
God, like is this a real like thing that we
Like,
need to be
hold
concerned?"
on. Do men have it worse than we think? Do white men have it worse than we think?
Is it
No,
actually
it would.
dangerous for them out there?
Oh my God.
I'm shocked.
No, it is scary though. I mean, like, even just because did you like the movie? I didn't think it was that bad, honestly, but
I didn't think it was bad, but I didn't really like it.
yeah, it's like yeah. So it kind of gave me like what 13 was trying to do for young girls, but I don't think this quite landed
Yeah,
or
it
was
was
impactful, but also I'm not a young boy, so I don't know, but
right. It almost was like too niche though, too. Like,
yeah.
it was such a specific time in such a specific place with such a specific culture with the skate culture that it just
Mhm.
really was like, okay, there aren't going to be a ton of people if we're talking about the across the country as a whole that are going to be able to relate to this. Like that certainly was not my 90s experience whatsoever.
Right.
Um
Yeah, it would. Yeah, so I mean, it did feel like a Jonah Hill indie
yeah,
pretentious
but
thing,
the
but I mean, it wasn't bad, and I actually was really impressed with the kid actors.
oh, me too. I thought they were great.
I know, I thought they did a phenomenal, like I felt like I was sitting around in a random store thing with
Yeah, like
them.
almost more like a documentary than
Yeah, like that it just felt really genuine, and then I was just kind of looking up some of the kids, and it doesn't seem like any of them really like fully act that
yeah,
much now. So it gave it more of that authentic feel.
yeah, I agree. It felt real, which added to why it was kind of disturbing in a way.
Right.
Um,
It felt too real.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I always just get a little bit uncomfortable, like with some of the dialogue. I mean, I know that there were
I
a lot
know.
of words that were thrown around that are not used today because they are slurs.
Offensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I was like, so you as a white man sat there and wrote
And wrote
this
this.
script. Like that really
I
just
know.
felt uncomfortable to me.
No, I thought that too, especially with it being from 2018 or if they filmed in 2017, I don't know. But I also thought that, and I almost thought, like, okay, fine, maybe that would have been realistic that those kids that age during that time period would have been saying that, but I still don't think it necessarily needed to be
Yeah, I agree.
in the movie. I just,
That all could have been out and it wouldn't have done anything to me with the
exactly.
film.
Right, like it still would have been jarring to hear the young kids say the F word and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But to hear them say, yeah, I was kind of like, I don't know, man. I just feel like it wasn't
Yeah,
necessary.
I just didn't like the a lot of the N word and the other F word. Like
Yes.
I didn't like that being thrown around so much. It just didn't feel like that added anything to the script or the movie at all.
Mhm.
And it just like you said, like it kind of added to that almost like pretentious Jonah Hill
Or like,
vibe.
I can say this because
Right.
it's historically accurate.
Yeah, or like I can do it because no, this was my life. This was real.
Mhm.
It's like, okay. I think Quentin Tarantino can get away with it in some of his movies for different things, or if we're watching like Django Unchained, it's like, okay, yeah, that was the way, people were referred to at that time. But when it's just like the 90s in California, like, I don't
Right.
think it's needed.
Right. Right. It's like, I'm sure it was said, but I just don't think it was necessary in this movie. We still could have got the picture,
Without
I
it.
don't know, without it for sure.
Yeah. But
But yeah, the youngest kid, like, just even the parts with like his brother beating the crap out of him, and even that part where he takes that cord and it's like that was really heartbreaking. That
yeah,
was that was like, and that kid just did, I mean, he really did a good job.
I know he really did. I thought that Lucas Hedges, the brother, he did a good job in this too, even though
He
he
did.
wasn't in it very much. But you knew that there was more depth to that character, and the
Hmm.
little bits that we saw from where it kind of started coming out, like it really was, you felt for him. Like you knew that he
Hmm.
had, like when they were playing video games and he's like, mom didn't always used to be like she is now, like she was a different mom with me. And then how painful it is for him to see his brother potentially going down this path that could lead to nowhere, essentially.
Right.
Like it really was compelling.
It was. I really liked that, like, pretty, I mean, I don't remember how old they said the older brother was supposed to be, but like a pretty decent age gap between the two, and just kind of that dynamic and him almost trying to be this intensive father figure in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I understood like all this, the plot of it, where like this young kid is trying to fit in and come to come very coming of age and all this stuff and yada yada yada. But I mean, just watching this as a 30 something, where like you have kids, and we're at the age where like a lot of people we know have kids, in this scenario of like having a 12-year-old or 13, however old he was at the time, is upon us, like it just was like so hard to watch, because so many of the decisions I'm like, oh, I would die if my kid was,
I
doing
know.
that. Like I like
Even
even
not to be a prude, but when the part where he was like hooking up with that older girl, I was like,
yes,
can't, I can't, I
I know.
can't do this. I can't think
And
about
I
this.
was just like, this is so wrong. What
I
are
know
they
he's just a
doing?
boy.
I
Leave him
know.
alone.
And then the part that really was so painful to watch was when his mom, what when was it? It was it after he had like gotten hurt or something, and the mom like brought him to this skate shop and was like, you will not hang out with him anymore,
Mm,
you won't see him, blah blah blah. And then when they went back to the car and he was just screaming at her,
yes,
I was like, oh my God, like that was hard to watch.
it was. It was so painful. And I think even just thinking back to when you're that age, like 13, 12, you I mean, we weren't like bad kids or anything, but you do just think about stuff like that and like your attitude towards things and just realizing you literally have no idea. It's like, how do you convey that to your own child?
I know. Like, because when we were younger, we're like, oh, they just don't understand.
You know,
It's like,
one
well,
day,
they do though, because they went through this age too, but like,
right?
you
And
don't
I
think
know, and it's
about
just
that.
right, and you just can't tell your kid any. I mean, they're just we have this just desire to figure ourselves out,
I
and we don't
know.
care. Like,
So defiant.
yes, and it's just so, yeah, when he was screaming at his mom, that was just, ugh,
It was awful. And the mom, I mean, you're like, what are you doing? But then you're like, she's a single mom. Like, it's so
right.
hard. And like, she doesn't know what to do. And
She's
obviously,
trying her best.
yeah. And you can tell that because she was kind of in a different place in her life, maybe not as stable. When she had her first child as how she is now, you can tell that the older son was really like, because of the instability that he felt in his home, he had to be the stable one and he needed to like
Right.
walk the straight and narrow and stuff. But then with the younger brother, he did have more security, more stability, and so he was rebelling against it. Like
Yeah.
it really was just like, oh God.
I know, it was such an interesting, like, that was creative on
Yeah,
Jonah Hill's part, as far as writing, just to have that dynamic
yeah,
between those two brothers. And even that could have been explored even more in even another movie, just you got
definitely.
a different mom than I did.
Yeah,
We were in the
definitely.
same household.
Maybe he has that on the back burner. He's
And that
gonna
could be
try
mid
that out. Yeah,
2000s,
yeah.
aughts.
Um, yeah, the one thing that really made me mad about this movie was the ending and just how obviously, the one boy is making horrible choices and I want to look up his name because I can't remember. Oh, I guess I can't really say it because we try to be a clean pod here. Uh, but for those who watched the movie, he is the one that ended up driving the car after being intoxicated
Intoxicated.
for the majority of the day. He wants to go to another party. And the one kid who was really like the rock for what was
Yeah.
his name, Stevie, was Ray. And he was like, I can tell that my friend is going down a bad path. But in that moment, he's like, he felt like he didn't even have a choice. He's like, okay, let's not make any issues, guys. Let's just get in the car. And like all of them knew this was a bad
And that,
idea.
right. And even that in itself was so scary.
I
I'm
know.
like, oh gosh. And the way they're all just like sitting in there, and you just get in with your friend because that's what you do.
Yeah. You don't even necessarily think about it, or you do, but you're like, well, what are my options? Like,
Right.
so that part, the fact that then they do get in this accident, and they're all just, poor little Stevie is injured pretty badly and at the hospital and stuff. And, it had to have a surgery or whatever. And then all of the quote unquote friends, the skate guys, are just waiting out in the waiting room. And there was no responsibility, no charges filed. I'm like, how did that driver not get charged with anything? And I know
It
it's
was
a
the
movie.
90s. No, I was a little confused about that too, because I'm like, but then they almost kind of like framed the accident weird. Like when it showed us the tiptoe, they almost made it seem like, oh, they were just swerving. So I don't know if they were all like, oh no, we just had to swerve out of the way because of this thing. Like, I don't know if that was what he was trying to imply.
Yeah.
But I also thought that was kind of a strange thing. Or maybe he was going to have charges pressed against him and we just didn't get to
Didn't
that
see
part.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I did
then
think it was. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say when the mom comes out and sees them all there, it's
Yeah,
like on one hand, oh, that is heartwarming that like these young boys that you thought were just degenerates basically like do really care about your
yeah,
son. But then on the other hand, it's like they are the cause of this whole thing and why he is in the hospital in the first place. So I guess like then the ending where it just essentially was like one big happy ending where they all come together and sit on the bed and they're friends, and then they watch the movie that the one kid has been making, that fourth grade has been making. It's like, okay.
I know, and I don't know if like, because when I first saw that when the mom walks out and then she sees all the boys, I was like, oh, like they actually do care about each other. And I do, because I've never been in a dynamic of middle school to high school aged boys. I guess I'm not, that could be very accurate. I'm just not sure because I don't know. I feel like I guess I'm just thinking back on just our age and girls, how different that situation would be, even if we're not even talking about like a car accident or something. But we, it does seem like men just kind of brush things off differently. It's like, no, we were just goofing on you this whole
Yeah.
time because we care about you. And I don't know. So I guess I'm not sure what I thought of that. I mean, it was cute, but also one was driving drunk, and that's not
Right.
cute.
And it
It
just,
caused a huge accident.
right. And it felt weird because it was the mom that came out and was like, "Oh, do you want to see him?" It's like,
That's why I wondered if they all lied about what
what
happened.
happened? Because why?
Yeah.
Okay, put yourself in those shoes. If that was one of your sons, if that exact same thing happened, I highly doubt that you would go out into the waiting room, see that situation, and be like, "Oh, why don't you just come on back and see him? Like,
I-
I know that you're the cause of this, but come on back." Like, I don't
Mhm.
think you would do that.
Right.
But I don't know. I guess that's where it felt like it was accurate, but not.
Yeah, I guess there just wasn't enough. And I don't know, again, like, was he trying to be like, well, it's the 90s, nobody really looked into that stuff. And I don't even know if that's true or not, or if were there charges pending and it was just immediately after the accident and no one was actually arrested. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It just kind of made for an odd ending to the film.
Yeah, like it was cute, but in reality, it wasn't.
Because I still would have liked if, even at the end, if it wasn't the boys sitting and watching the movie that fourth grade had made, it would have been nice if, it ended a different way, but then that just played at the end. Then you would have been like,
Yeah.
oh, he did have,
Look at all these cute moments. Yeah.
yeah, and like, look at how he was able to put that together, and he can be successful at something, and that would have been a cute thing. But for me, it just felt a little marred by the fact that the one character drove drunk and poor Stevie got really hurt.
Right.
So I guess I don't
It
know.
was better. Yeah, it was better than I thought it was going to be, especially just when it first started. I was like, I don't know about this. But then as it kept going, I'm like, okay,
Yeah, I
yeah,
wouldn't watch it again. And I
no.
don't know if I would be telling people to watch it, because I don't, to me, it's like, okay, that's fine. We watched this movie, but it wasn't anything that I would feel compelled to like tell others about.
Mhm. And
So
skating was that like skateboarding thing was such an of the time thing. Like even the
I
early
know,
2000s, like I remember my stepbrother was like so into the skate park when
I
he was like
know.
that age. So it was kind of funny to see that. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that was a thing.
Skate culture.
Yeah.
I know. That was just, it was nostalgic to see that.
Yeah, I thought last thing I want to say, I did think the styling was pretty good. Like it wasn't too try hardy.
No, and it definitely embodied to me the
Right,
skate culture of the book. Even though we didn't live in that, it
right,
definitely felt accurate to me.
right. It didn't look like they were trying to be styled. Like it looked like the kids just put on.
their own clothes.
their clothes.
Yeah.
But so do you want to talk about Talk to Me?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this.
I know it was really interesting. I do want to shout out the makeup and the practical effects and the body horror in this in
Mhm.
like a totally different body horror way was really good.
Yeah, I was very surprised by this movie because sometimes when they're this I don't know, I don't want to say like a cheesy, but just like I this type of scary movie you're not expecting a lot from.
Yeah, like it's definitely a paranormal scary movie.
Yeah. But I really was um surprised by some of the plot points and the direction that they took it, where it didn't feel like every other paranormal horror and it felt
Mhm.
like they added new elements. And certainly things weren't perfect with it either, but like
Right.
overall it felt really like it was a fun watch. And I after watching it I was really pleasantly surprised because I didn't expect to like it as much as I did.
I know, even just with the hand in it almost being like doing drugs.
Yeah.
Like, kinda like this felt like this is where we're at now, or it kind of was a really cool concept, and I don't know if I mean, I guess I'm assuming that was probably the goal without it being like, "Don't do drugs," or whatever, but it was like, it can overtake your life,
Yeah.
in the especially if you're going through something really difficult, like she's mourning her mother's suicide and
Hmm.
going through that, and then kind of leaning on this drug, which would be the hand possessing and being able to talk to her mother and like escaping real life.
Yeah, and I have to assume that that was meaningful to do it that
Hmm.
way. And it wasn't just like coincidental, the parallels
Hmm.
between this and like drug addiction or just addiction
Hmm.
in general. Um, I was just looking up the sequel and when
Yeah,
that
I did see they were having a sequel.
give updates. Let's see when that updates are
I do
supposed
think
to
this
be.
would be a good movie to do that too, because we could leave these past characters. Because obviously, spoiler alert, at the end, which the ending was awesome,
Mm-hmm.
when she was like in there too. We can almost like just kind of delete all that and come up with some new, fresh people, which I think you
Yeah,
could almost do like that consistently, and that would be really fun.
yeah. I think that this could be an actual good sequel because a lot of times with this type of movie too, this type of horror, it's like, okay, another one, we're gonna do the exact same story and then just have new people in it. It's like it doesn't land. But this one it I think there's a real story there.
I know it almost seems like it could do the Smile and Smile 2 thing. Maybe not
Mhm.
as big scale, but where the first one is like this smaller, really good, deep movie, and then we kind of like up it a notch for the second.
Yeah. It looks like they're looking at 2027 ish for
Hmm.
the sequel to this one. So
We got ways.
we got a little while for that. But yeah, I mean I thought there were definitely a couple parts in it where I had to like look away. The one part where the brother was trying to take out his eye, I like
I
couldn't
know.
even look at that.
That kid, I don't know if he's genuinely a kid, but he looked really young. He did a good job, man. Like, and yeah, and when he would just beat his face
Oh,
in, and then it was like licking the blood up, like that was spooky.
it
That
really
was
was
good.
spooky.
That was some
He
good work.
he is 18. He just turned 18 in
So
April.
yeah, he would
So
have been
he was,
underage when it came out.
yeah, I mean, not as young as he was portrayed in the movie, but
Right.
still young. Yeah, I mean, there was so much of that body horror that really it reminded me of like Hereditary in that way, where
Mhm.
there were just it was just hard to watch.
It was, and the just the makeup and the blood was just so good. Like, it wasn't too over the top, like, it genuinely looked, not that I've seen that, but, like, somebody was smashing their face in, and then when he was doing that and the sister put her hand there to
Oh
stop him
yeah,
and freaking smashed her hand, I was like, I could feel that.
I know. I know. The parts where he was in the hospital too, those were really
And
just
so
creepy.
intense.
Mhm.
And, I thought the mom of I guess the friend, I think the friend's name was Jade, and then the young boy, Riley.
Riley, yeah.
I thought she was fun, and I liked that aspect too of her like blaming the friends for his drug problem, which was
Yeah.
actually like the possession, and that was a really cool thing too to happen there. And
Yeah. Yeah, that which it's like, of course, like that seems like a normal parent reaction, right? Like, no, it's not. He didn't, want to do this. You guys influenced him. So that felt really like real. And then, of course, everybody's just like, what the heck is going on? Like, no one can even understand what's happening. And that's where kind of like at the end part of it, I think it got a little bit unraveled with just like
yeah,
how just things happened. It lost me a little bit, but I mean, it's still the movie was like what, an hour and a half, so it wasn't too long.
right.
It just got a little looser at the end.
So do you think she pushed her or like jumped in front of the car, or do you think the friend pushed her to get her off the brother?
Well, I think they made it seem like the friend pushed her, but I mean, she certainly could have sacrificed herself too,
Hmm.
you
Well,
know,
almost maybe she was on the same trajectory as her mother,
mom. Yeah.
or like thinking that was the way to be with her mom then. The part too where the toe sucking, the foot sucking
Oh my
thing.
God.
Oh, that was insane. First of all, it was creepy when that creepy demon thing came out of the corner and
I
started doing
know.
that.
I
And
know.
when he woke up and it was her, I was like, it
But
was so,
because it wasn't even, I mean, I don't have any type of foot fetish, but it wasn't even like a sexy, like, oh, I'm gonna
yeah.
suck on your toe. It was literally
Like, it
like,
was a
your
disturbing, like,
whole foot is in my mouth.
yeah, I'm your ex-boyfriend, and this
Yeah.
is freaky.
Like it was gross. And there was nothing about the visual that was like, oh, this is sexy, sensual. It was just like creepy. Like, what is going on? Like imagine waking up and seeing that.
That you're like, after the friend has already been acting crazy, like
Yeah.
unhinged, and then that happens, and you're like, oh my gosh, what are they
Yeah.
doing? And again, it's like because she's on drugs.
I know that's what, like, it's just so interesting how they framed that. Cause like,
Hmm.
I know that like the narrative, like from the mom, that's what it was. But like, did they purposefully make like
Right.
the symptoms the same kind of, you know what I mean?
Right. That's what I really liked in Smile too, because it was like, or I mean, Smile too, also, because they did make it seem like she was like this former drug addict. So all this erratic behavior that she's showing, they're like, well, she's back on drugs when really there's like this paranormal phenomenon happening. And I liked that this one kind of did that too. But then I am like, was that the intention, or was it just supposed to be
Yeah.
at face
Yeah.
value?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. The part with like the mom was really interesting too. Like because at first it played on your heartstrings, like,
It
oh my
did.
God, like her mom,
It's not
she's
what
connecting
happened
with
to
her
her.
mom. Yeah, this
Right.
is so sad. And then the more that it kind of goes on, you're like, no, like
Being
she's not
tricked.
just, yeah, she's not trying to just communicate with you as like a mother-daughter thing. Like it actually is kind of demonic, and yeah, she was being tricked.
Right, because she play or was stayed possessed or played the game
Too
too
long.
long,
Yeah.
and she was already in, and that's even just lore in general, I guess, where if you're more susceptible to being possessed when you are going through a period of grief and darkness. So
Yeah.
pretty cool. I also
Yeah.
wanted to point out, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out too, it's so funny to see Gen Z portrayed in movie. Like sometimes it just like jar me a little bit where it's like they all had the phone out. I'm like, of course they all have their phone out, you know? It's
I
like
know.
that makes sense, but sometimes it is like, what are you guys doing? And you're like, no, duh, this is exactly what the kids are doing.
Well,
This,
I know. I felt that too. And even with like how the kids dress, like so many of
yeah,
the characters were almost like, I'm kind of more like gender neutral or gender
yeah,
fluid, and like in movies that we grew up with, or even I would say the majority of films that are out there right now,
yeah. They're like
it's
portraying millennials.
right. Like it's very okay, this is, a man, this is a woman. Like it's
Yeah,
really clear from their costuming who they are as a
yeah.
gender.
Or if you're like a tomboy, then it's very clear that that was made fun of, or
Yeah.
like,
Or like, yeah, you dress in baggy clothes and you don't like dresses, but you're still really beautiful.
right,
It's like, okay,
clearly feminine.
yeah, like we have to throw that in there. Whereas like the one character who kind of had the hand to begin with was totally like a gender fluid
Yeah.
character, like just top to bottom, like you could tell that. And it's just interesting because like, yeah,
And it
like
wasn't
that.
part of that character's plot point either.
No.
It just, that's what they were. It wasn't
Well,
brought
and
up.
it's
Like no characters
realistic.
really was.
Yeah,
Right.
because that would be someone in a friend group. Like that's not,
Right.
it doesn't need to be a plot point or anything. But
Hmm.
it's interesting and just different, I think, for us, our generation, just to see that in movies because it
I
just
know.
has
And
never been really depicted.
no, like not at all. And every time I see just Gen Z styling or anything a little more gender neutral, it does like, oh yeah, like no, this is totally normal. It's just not represented on camera very often unless it's literally a plot point.
Right. Yep. So that was just something different too. But I thought it again just like made the movie um more realistic, even though obviously the the whole thing wasn't a
And
real
really,
thing. But
but I
it
think
did.
it did have a way of doing that when it was such a clear paranormal movie. It still felt pretty grounded in reality in a
Yeah,
weird
because
way.
if I mean, just like you mentioned with the phones, like the whole reason why the what was her name, the main character
Mia,
Mia,
Maya, yeah.
yeah, she like saw the stuff with the hand to begin with was on social media at a party, and she's like, oh, we need to go, and that would be how something like that would get around. And then
All right.
these kind of the group that was there for like the more intimate party at Jade's house, like they kind of were an eclectic group. Maybe these people
Mhm.
wouldn't typically hang out together, but this thing is bringing them all together, and they want to film it and they want to have fun and be,
Mhm.
crazy for the night. And it just like that did feel real.
Yeah, just like kids shooting the poop or whatever
Yeah.
you want to say. Just and then instead of smoking weed, they're getting possessed.
Yeah, they're getting possessed, but only for a certain amount of time
Yes.
because
I
I
know. I'm
thought
like, oh, I'm like, I can handle the smoking the weed in the basement, I think, but
I
I can't
know.
handle the possessed
I know.
hand. That'll
I'll
send me
draw
over
the
the
line
edge.
at
I know.
possession.
If I walk downstairs and I see my kids doing that, I'll lose my mind.
Game over. Game over. Everyone's
Yes.
grounded.
Yes.
But it was kind of an interesting montage too of when they were having the party and this is all just fun and games. Look how much fun we're
Hmm.
having with being possessed. It's so goofy. Like we're filming it and everybody's doing crazy stuff. Like the way
They're like,
that
it feels so, you just feel like lightweight and like you're
yeah.
out of yourself.
Yeah, like the way that they talked about it and the way that they showed that on film was just really like funny because they tried to make it like comical.
Yeah. And
And
then
then
all of a
the
sudden goes
table
bad.
turned with Riley.
I know. And even like just thinking about then when they expose the younger person to it, there's like too young. So it had the even worse effect on them.
Which you knew was going to happen,
Hmm.
but it still, you didn't know to what extent.
Yeah. Whew.
So,
Spooky.
yeah, I enjoyed that one. I thought
Yeah, it was a
that
pretty
was
good,
fun.
yeah, it was a good paranormal scary movie. It was sad. I mean, it was a sad movie
Yeah,
too, but I liked it.
me too.
Surprise.
Um,
I don't know if I'd ever rewatch it, but
yeah, I don't know if I would rewatch it either, but I did like it.
still liked it for what it was.
Yeah. Do you want to do Anatomy of a Fall next?
Sure.
Just because,
Speaking of a good child actor,
yeah, right? And a good animal actor.
I know, no kidding. The animal was um very present in this movie. Very cute doggy.
I know. I remember when I watched this when it first came out on Hulu, and I brought that up about the dog, and then even in the awards circuit, they had a lot of talk about the dog in this movie. Like
Well,
it
and
was
I think
actually just so crazy.
I know, and it had been, I feel like animals were in movies all the time when we were growing up. I mean, you had like Babe. I mean, just animal cats and dogs like left and right. And it was
I
like, oh my
know.
gosh, I was just shocked to see a dog or like an animal featured so heavily in a movie again. Like it
Be a
just seems
main
like,
actor, really.
yeah.
I know, yeah, we had yeah, like you said, Babe, Homeward Bound, um Old Yeller was done,
Yeah, just
Beethoven.
Shiloh. There was
Yeah,
so many animal movies.
I know. And now they're hard to come by.
I know they really are, probably because people are like, the animals are being abused, and most of them probably were.
Maybe the animals are too expensive.
That could be too, because then you have to have the trainers and then the
Yeah,
safety for the actors.
yeah. Interesting. But yeah, great child actor too. I mean, I really like this movie. I think it was worthy of the award noms and I don't remember how many awards it got, but I looks like it got right a original screenplay at the Academy Awards, and then this one was the Palme d'Or winner at Cannes, which is always a predictor for the awards circuit. I just thought it was a unique film as well.
It was, and I've only seen this one time. This was my first view, and I do feel like it needs a second watch
Mm-hmm.
just to pick up on a lot more things because I didn't know a ton about this movie before seeing it, so I wasn't really sure what direction it was going. especially with the beginning being a little bit of a slower start,
Mhm.
at least for me personally. But then it did get really interesting. And I even just the concept alone, like having a visually impaired witness, basically,
Yeah,
to a potential murder is kind of like that's just really interesting.
I know, but then like that ends up kind of being the smoking gun, like how they
Right.
kind of figure out or seemingly figure out what happened. It's like, well, hold on a second, they would have heard this or like it was just really interesting how they pieced that stuff together. And I think for like a foreign language film, I mean, I always have kind of a difficult time with those, not because
Like
I
reading them the whole
yeah,
time.
like, and I know that some people are the complete opposite and they like to have subtitles on all the time for any movie. But for me personally, it's just something that I find a little distracting sometimes. And it's not to say that, like, I don't want to watch foreign films because it's not in English, but it's just to me, that's why it does need a second watch because,
Yeah, because, well, especially just being able to, because if you're reading down at the bottom of the screen, you're not getting to see everybody's body language or like their little movements with what they're saying.
yeah,
And so not that it can ever take you out of it, but you might be missing more things.
right, right. So yeah, I thought the acting in general in this movie was very good. I also felt like this movie, I guess maybe this is the theme that we didn't realize. It's just realistic feeling films.
Yeah, there we go.
This did feel very realistic, and even though it's set in a different country, and obviously the court system and stuff is different from what we saw on the film, I still was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like that's how they do things. It's different from America, but their process for that made sense to me, even though I didn't know anything about the court process.
Yeah, like I didn't feel confused by that, which
Yeah,
was good. And I felt like I was just in tune if I would have been watching about an American um courtroom case
yeah,
too.
yeah,
I also thought it was just the whole part of the child, also being visually impaired, but also what a position that would be for a child to be in. Like, whatever I say is going to convict my mother or not. I already have lost one parent in this insane way, and
yeah,
I like found the body. You're like, do I want to lose my other parent if I say the wrong thing? I might. Am I mad at that parent because I didn't actually see what happened? I also
yeah,
thought at one point when the son was up on the stairs, I was like, did he push dad? Because then we do get that dynamic of maybe the dad was a little abusive, but then
yeah,
was the mom's actions causing some of the abuse? Was she a little bit abusive too? Like it did feel like you were in a court case trying to put this together.
yeah. There were so many complicated relationships in this film. I mean,
Hmm.
and I think the one that was the most compelling was that of the son with kind of being in the middle there, and like exactly like you said, the if he says something that's against his mom, then she could be gone out of his life. And then where does that leave him? But if he truly believes that she was a part of this and he doesn't say anything, then where does
What
that
happened?
leave him?
So so you've watched it twice now. So what do you think happened? Do you think that she killed him or not? Or
I
does it, I
mean,
mean, I guess at the end of the day, maybe it doesn't matter, but
yeah,
and then it kind of frames it too, like maybe she could have like just helped him along because he kind of was suicidal anyway.
Right, like she pushed him in that direction.
Yeah.
Like it definitely seemed like she had something to do with it.
Okay,
Um,
that's kind of where I was at, but I'm like, I really think I need to watch it again to actually, and maybe I'll feel differently. I'll just second watch. But I feel like I don't know.
yeah, it just it felt like one of those situations like, okay, maybe she didn't actually push him, but
Right,
she did this, 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 and this that led up to him jumping or falling or whatever, like,
right,
and then it's just like, well, if we're talking about legally, how do you prove that?
right. Exactly. It's like, how could they have proved that her infidelity or her, even more to the story that we don't know, pushed
Yeah,
him to it? Was there a fight upstairs,
right. And just like her
Which-
pure like indifference almost to him, and like there's
Yeah.
clear like disdain there between them. It's like, well, you do hear that all the time where
Mhm.
people act in outlandish ways because their spouse is disgusted by them.
Right.
So I don't know it.
I know, or even I know, well, and then it's kind of like too, we don't really see her grieve him, but that could
Yeah,
also be because of the demise of their marriage anyway. Um, and then time has passed, and then I don't, and he died in a shocking way if she really didn't have anything to do with it. So that could all be why she's not really, or she could even be mad that she's now put in this situation.
situation, yeah.
Because
But
that's always my,
her overall demeanor certainly feels kind of cold.
yeah, and like a little guilty, or almost that she's just happy that he's gone and
Yeah.
she doesn't have to live in with the French people anymore.
Well, the added layer of it with like the book sales and all this stuff, it
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, there's so much.
Much. I know it's really, and even like there's just so much with the kid too, because it's almost like you see him, even with the dog when he like gives it too many pills or whatever, and then that conversation with his dad, and it's like he's convincing himself that the mom didn't do it when it's
Yeah.
almost like he actually fully believes that maybe she did do it, but she's like rationalizes it in his head in a way where he's like, no, that couldn't have happened. I don't even want to accept
Well,
that.
and that is super realistic too. I mean, what kid,
Hmm.
unless, I mean, even if the facts are right in front of you, I don't know if many children are going to want to think, oh, my parent is a murderer.
Right. And then maybe is there part of the him, which I don't know as much as a kid, his age when the accident happened, if he would blame his father, but maybe
Yeah.
there was a little bit of that too. Like maybe he's like, well, if she did do it or something did happen to him, maybe I'm glad that that happened in a
Yeah.
way too.
Yeah. A
And
lot of
it's just,
conflicting, big emotions and feelings.
hmm but this is like my worst case scenario. I'm like, what if something happens to my husband
Oh my
and
God.
I am the first? Like, what if they're putting me
Well,
on trial
they
for
always go to the spouse.
They do, and it's like, what if they're looking through our text messages and there's like a rage message?
Right, or like
What
it
would you
just so
do?
happened that the day before you guys had this huge blow up, and it's like,
Right?
no, that's just
Right.
coincidental.
Or even what is my kid's interpretation
Yeah,
of our
that's so
relationship?
true.
And we wouldn't know until he's in
You
this
have to go to
situation.
court
Yeah.
for
So it's like,
murder
this is
potentially.
literally, I know. I'm like, what if you, because it's like, no matter what, even if you're not home, you walk into it, you're still a
Yeah,
suspect
I
like
know.
that. Pretty good movie. I definitely think it needs another rewatch for me at some point.
I think it's worth a rewatch.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think that one will be like a classic too. Like from years from now, it'll
Yeah,
be
like
one
I
that,
could definitely see that one withstanding time.
yeah, totally.
And for our last, we did Wolf of Wall Street.
Yep.
Was
So this
this
is
year?
another Jonah Hill.
It is, which I have to say, he's just so good in
I
this.
know he really is.
He's just the absolute worst in the best way.
I know.
I can't remember if this is my second or third time watching this, but I felt like I didn't remember everything, but I remember that this movie was super entertaining, and it's like the woman in me wants to be like, this is so misogynistic. But gosh, this is a good movie.
I know. I was thinking that same thing too. I think it's probably like my third time because I remember things really clearly
Almost
about
too good.
this.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I almost remembered this too good for it to be, because I know I saw it that one first time, but I'm like, I feel like I must have seen it again
Yeah.
before this time. But
Yeah, but I agree with you. It's like there's so many things about it that they're just wrong,
wrong.
but you can't help but just be like, yeah, but I want more.
I know, and I guess like because obviously there's a ton of nudity in this,
Yeah.
a ton of drug use and stuff. But as far as the nudity, I do think that it plays it in more of a comedic way than, I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to justify it and I don't need to.
Well, I don't even think that it feels super sexual.
Yeah, it's like it's almost silly or
Yeah.
I don't really know how to explain.
Well, it's so weird because when I was watching one of the airplane scenes, when I think it
Hmm.
was when they were going on the bachelor party or whatever, and
Hmm.
it's just like a freaking free for all on the flight, like absolutely insane. But it just like none of like I'm looking at that like this is outlandish, this is wild.
Yeah,
But at the same time, like I know that this
it's
is based off of Jordan's life.
right. And I believe that millionaires and con artists are living like this.
Yeah. And especially at that time, like where the
Yeah,
drugs were so like prevalent and just women, I mean, you know, we hear stuff come out now about celebrities from certain times and it's like, whoa, is that really going on?
it's
So
like apparently it does.
yeah. And I'm sure that there were some things in this movie that were a bit like over
Right, like I'm
dramatized.
sure that's the way Jordan Belfort saw it.
Yeah, yeah, like
It
that's the
felt
way
like
he
it was
thought his
happening.
life was. Yeah. So, but overall, like it's just entertaining to watch, and
I
you
know it's
almost like don't care that he's doing all
I,
these terrible
you're like
things.
I know you're like, yeah, he's cheating on his wife 100 million times, but oh, I
He's
don't
not that
know.
bad of a guy. Like
Fine.
you're just kind of compelled by
Just
him.
and I think like DiCaprio's performance in this is just so I on this watch, and we have recently watched Dallas Buyers Club, I do feel like not that Matthew McConaughey's performance is also great. It was super impactful and meaningful, but this was just I think he should have won. Like I really
I know, but this is where it goes to the type of movie
right,
100%, because Dallas Buyers Club was that more typical, the drama, and then
right,
this one,
sad.
yeah, while it was based on, a true story, it certainly does have those comedic and outlandish elements that don't make for a big Oscar film.
Right. And I guess if I'm thinking of this year too, we got with Mikey Madison winning her role, except for like the end. And I mean, overall, it is sad, but that was almost a comedic role
Yeah.
too. So it's just kind of interesting. But the way Leo just, I mean, and not to say that he always plays like these button up, straight laced people, but this is just on a whole other level. Like, we don't really see him fully get this unhinged
Yeah.
in, in that way. And it was just really, he just does so good. Like, when would we ever see Leonardo DiCaprio have a candlestick coming out of his?
I know. I mean, because even in like the movie that I kind of compare it to in terms of just like the persona of the lead
Mhm.
is like Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that one really like he is a bit more straight laced in a sense, or seemingly, and then oh, he's actually a con artist, you know. And then
Mhm.
in this, it's basically the same situation. However, things are just totally, um, I, I mean, just insane.
Multiplied.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Like he obviously the drug use and this the time in the 80s and 90s that it was. It's like what an insane period where like we know that there were like no rules in Wall Street during that time. Like it
Right.
wasn't like I think you can talk to like normal people who were working in Wall Street and they'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, like people would be doing lines in the bathroom." Like I'm sure that was not unheard of.
Right. And even just thinking about being this like big investor and like having all these people like counting on you. And
Yeah,
it's like they're obviously doing bad things to get the money. But I mean, that level of stress, like you'd almost have to be drugged out on Quaaludes
I know.
all day just to get like manage that and be awake and just constantly on edge and like
I
yeah
know.
doing the cocaine to just keep yourself there. It's like it's just wild. And even just watching Leo like doing that like physical comedy when he
Yeah,
takes the and he has the cerebral palsy. I mean, that is just like I just you never get to think you're gonna see Leonardo DiCaprio like crawling around and like
no.
and the voiceover work is so funny and the editing in there is so funny. It's like we just don't get to see him be funny like that.
I know. Yeah, I think that's why it like that really made the movie. Like if it would have been another actor in that role, I think it still would have been good, but part of it was almost a shock value of seeing Leonardo DiCaprio in a way that we aren't used to seeing him.
I
Like
know, and just
he
him being yeah, like just so pompous and like laughing and
yeah.
like just that insane unhingedness was
Well,
just
and we hear the bits and pieces about like, or we see bits of like his partying lifestyle, not so much now, but like in years past. And we've heard rumors about his sexual preferences, but like we don't really truly know a lot about him. So that's
no,
why
he's
to
very
see him,
aloof.
yeah, and to see him like this in such a over the top character, it's just like shocking, you know, like that
It
really
is, yeah,
is.
because he's always like the straight laced. You don't know a ton about him. He avoids the paparazzi
Yeah,
all the time. And then, yeah, to see him like maybe this is just him.
I know, right? Like he plays it a little
No.
too well.
Hmm.
The one
And this
part
is,
that I had forgot about actually until it was right in front of me was when they were on the boat and he's like, "We have to go to Monaco," and the captain's like, "Yeah, we're gonna hit a little chop," and he's like, "A little chop, it's no problem, just a little chop, a couple broken dishes," and then literally next scene is them in like the worst storm you've ever
Die.
seen in your life. And he's like crawling in from outside, like, what is going on? Like, that is so funny.
I know, like I was laughing a lot during this. I'm
I
like,
know.
this is just so funny. And even yeah, again too with the Quaaludes, he's like, I got home without a scratch on me or the car. Just even like his line delivery
I
and yeah,
know.
the commentary and even Jonah Hill just being this like just looking at him, I was just grossed out, but he just did such a good job.
And he's got those like chiclet teeth,
Yes,
Jonah
this
Hill. And the funny part too, which I also forgot about, I forgot about some of the little parts,
yeah, there's definitely
where Jordan is like, so, yeah, the one thing I kind of heard, I didn't really pay much notice to it, but something about you're married to your cousin. Yeah, yeah, I am. I You're like, what? You're married? Yeah, she was just so hot. I wasn't gonna let anybody else have her. What? Are you kidding?
it's like it's just so great. And you just have all these like even the other like secondary characters we run into are just so over the top and insane. And like obviously they're but you know, like characters, but at the same time I do believe that you're encountering all these types of people when you're
Yeah,
in these kind of like slimy businesses. Like these people aren't gonna be kind and
I know.
generous. And then
Um,
this is oh
I was just gonna say that Margot Robbie is actually
yeah.
in it way more than I
Yeah.
thought.
I know, was thinking that too, and this is obviously her big break.
Hmm.
It was kind of funny to like see her even in this
I
kind of
know.
like unhinged. Because yeah, I mean, it's like knew she was in this, obviously, but I was surprised at how much she ended up actually being in it.
Well, and just how much things have changed for her since this.
Yeah,
You know, we just saw Barbie, and that was her big role. I mean, we're far from Barbie with this role for sure. Like that's kind
opposite
of,
direction, really.
yeah. And then I mean, the next movie that we're seeing her in, I think this will be the very next one, is the Wuthering Heights. So it's like,
Hmm.
wow, like what a change of career, you know?
I know, like she really could have went that, not that she hasn't done a few of those here and there, but that like hot girl role, but she really was able to elevate herself.
Yeah, she was. Because even, I mean, she had a small role in The Big Short, but
Right,
she
she's
was
been in,
pretty much the same, you know, character of just like, yeah, I'm hot. That's
right.
basically it. I'm the hot blonde. And she didn't get typecast in that way.
No, she really was able to wiggle her way through.
Yeah,
And she's really just a hair older than we are.
let's not remind ourselves of that. It's a little bit depressing when you realize that, and it doesn't even seem real.
I know.
Like she seems like she doesn't look it, but she seems way older than us.
I know, but she does kind of have that like she looks young in this movie.
Yeah,
She does, but mostly just when we first see her, because then as the movie goes on, I mean, I kind of believe that she's, you know, maybe in her 30s or whatever. I don't know what
yeah.
the age is she's supposed to be, but she does have like a very like a regally
Oh yeah.
beauty
Well,
to
she's the
her.
Duchess. But no, I agree. She does have. She doesn't look like she's 22 or anything.
Right.
But yeah, I thought that this. Oh, I was gonna say about Margot Robbie. I think even though like you don't want her to get typecast in a role like this, I think that she does play it really well.
I know she did a great job. And it also does feel like, just going back to Honora, that it feels like this character, just like the mannerisms and stuff, kind of mirror each other a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
And even just the element, and they're definitely two different movies, but just the element of the over-the-top guy is just
Mm-hmm.
insane, and then, but this time we actually get to follow the woman through it
Yeah,
versus, the guy. But it just kind of reminds me of maybe she'll have the same trajectory as Marco.
I know. We'll see. I mean, she definitely, I think the stupid stereotype of like the hot blonde versus the hot brunette, like the
Mm.
hot brunette doesn't always um fall into the same pitfalls as like a hot blonde would. I would say like Megan Fox is a big exception to that rule. But just like typically, everybody's like, oh my God, like the hot dumb blonde. And it's so easy to just get always cast in that. Whereas like
Mm-hmm.
Mikey Madison, I think also because like she is so beautiful, but she like a very unique look. Like I can
Mm-hmm.
see her easily being cast in other roles and not just, being typecast into ones that are mainly based on like looks, which from just looking at it on paper, you might think a Nora is, but once you watch the film, you realize like it's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, and we have to point out the Bo Deedle.
oh my God, yes.
I was like, wait, did you just say Bo Deedle? And then it was like, are we talking about Real Housewives of New Jersey? Bo Deedle? And that makes this even more like the whole situation in Housewives. It becomes even more nefarious when we
Well,
like.
but
I guess
I
I
don't,
just didn't even put the
that's
two and
what
two
made,
together.
I know, and that's what made me wonder the timeline of like when I watched this, or maybe I just didn't even catch it. Because this time I was like, Bo, Bo Deedle? Wait, hold on a second.
I
But I
know.
don't even remember that in my other watches.
No, because that was only a couple years ago for the Housewives.
Housewives.
So
So maybe the last time I watched the movie it must have been before this all happened with Housewives.
yeah, because well, and then I was like, how old is this Bo Dietl?
Yeah.
Like, how is he? Even though this movie wasn't like forever ago as far as when it's set.
Yeah, but he's
Um,
still in
I
business.
was like, wait, this man is still alive. Like, oh my
He's
gosh.
not just a figment of our imagination. He is real.
I thought it was like this, Bo Dietl, Bo Dietl. I'm like, oh wait, this is an actual nefarious, real,
Yeah, no,
horrible person.
there he was in the car on his car phone.
It's crazy. No wonder they were making such a big deal about it on Housewives.
Well, and just like with a name like Bo Deedle, you're not even, but I wonder like if they used his real name, do you think that they had to get his permission for that?
I don't know how that stuff works. Or like, did Steve Madden want to be wrapped up in this
Yeah.
movie, in this film? I mean, obviously that's like public knowledge, but I wouldn't have known that without this movie.
Me either, yeah. I suppose I don't think it would hurt Steve Madden's career.
Right. It's
Is
kind
Steve
of funny.
Madden still making shoes?
I don't know. I know. I wanted to look up how old he was now.
Because he looks so young in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously that's just the person playing him, but they would have,
It still looked like him. I was
yeah,
like, oh, that.
and they would have made it accurate enough to the time period of how old he should be.
Right. He's 67.
Oh, wow, okay.
Why do I feel like these people are all like younger than I'm expecting them to be? It just felt like
Bo Deedle's probably the same age.
literally. Um, there was like a time period for a little bit where I would see this Jordan Belfort pop up on TikTok and he's just like making TikToks. It's like I meant to look it up to see if he still had it.
Well, I know he was in the news like when this movie came out. Like he got a lot of press for that, considering it's about his life and he's still
And it
alive.
made it look really luxurious.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, yeah, I don't really know what the heck he's doing now. If he's on TikTok, he obviously is trying to make an income
He's probably
on,
still giving advice.
yeah, probably
Yeah.
financial advice. The thing that was so interesting about this movie, he is a good salesman, like when
He
he's
is,
giving
well,
his pitches and stuff.
right. And it's like if you look him up, like him and, at that time period, him and Leo look relatively similar
Yeah,
enough. And so he's like a good looking guy. He seems super charming, if you don't know any of this stuff.
what's not to like?
Right.
But yeah, I think the movie is good, and honestly, whether or not the everything is completely accurate, like I don't really care.
I know. I think it's too entertaining of a movie, and I'm fine with it. Like, is there an
Yeah,
exaggeration on the amount of women that were around? Maybe. I don't
yeah,
care.
but I literally could not care less.
Right. And it's
Um,
like,
Go ahead.
it's fine. I was just gonna say, like, is it necessary to show some of that stuff? No, but it still makes for a fun movie.
Yeah, and I wasn't like grossed out by it. I mean, I
Mhm.
was grossed out by just their overall actions. So, like, oh my God, they
Right.
really acted this way. But when I saw it on my screen, I wasn't like, this is ridiculous. This is too
Right.
much. It felt like it all made sense given our characters.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring up the box office on this one. This movie had a budget of $100 million and it was released Christmas Day 2013, which is crazy. I did not think it was that long ago.
I know.
And it grossed almost 400 million, 392 million worldwide. And, oh my God, I almost choked. The numbers just really got me. But the crazy thing about
Gagged.
this, literally, the crazy thing about this one to me was that it made most of its money internationally. It made 275 million abroad,
What was the budget of it?
only 100 million, which of course we could adjust for inflation. But given that movie, like when you look and see,
It looks like 100 million was
it looks
spent.
like more, honestly.
I know. Like, it is it is a movie.
Yeah. Like
That is
it,
cinema.
when we talked about Babylon, like you can see the money in that production.
Yeah.
You can see it here too, for sure.
Even just the styling and the clothes, like just that everybody's wearing, they didn't have them in knockoff suits.
No, I mean they look great. Everything looked great. Oh, this actually says, so the one I said was 392. This other one says, maybe this was a little after the fact, it gives worldwide as 407, becoming Scorsese's highest grossing film.
Wow. I mean, I'm just thinking about like if you go to see this movie, like you are gonna have a blast in the theater. Like you're just
I
going to.
know. I wish that we could have seen it in the theater, but we weren't as deeply rooted cinephiles as we are now, although we probably went to the movie theaters more. I felt like this was kind of, it would have felt like a boy movie, and so we wouldn't have like ran to
I
theaters.
know that's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm like, I don't know if we would have been like that interested. I know I rented it when it came out shortly after that, but
Yeah. Yeah, I never went to the theaters to see it, but you're right. I bet this was so fun to see. I bet the theaters were packed.
but people were cheering and like
Yeah,
laughing. Like this would have been a great movie in the
I know. They need to do a re-release.
I know.
It said that Leo made 25 million for this, and apparently Margot Robbie made 347,000.
Criminal. And she got naked.
I know.
That
But
wouldn't fly today, I tell you what.
well, and of course, I think sometimes with these numbers, like we don't really know. But
Right.
obviously, there's a huge pay gap there. But when
Hmm.
you think about it, like if we're literally going off of like years
Career.
is, yeah,
Right.
Leo clearly had way more of an established career than Margot Robbie. So
Right.
it's
And he was bringing money into the box office. So
yeah,
before
if it
that.
would have been somebody else, who knows if it would have done as well.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a lot of funny parts in this movie, and it was really fun to rewatch it. I'm glad that we you put this one on the list.
I know when I saw that pop up, I'm like, let's just do it. We just watched Dallas Buyers Club. We got to do this one.
Well,
Yeah,
and you forget that at Matthew McConaughey is in the
I
movie.
know. And a great scene. And isn't that allegedly all ad-libbed? Like he just did that?
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that too, which you
Yeah, and
can
then they
totally see him
see
doing.
that. Just
So.
yeah, he's fantastic in this movie for that minimal amount of time that he's
Yeah,
in it.
it's like a flash in the pan that he's
I
there,
know.
but he really like starts the whole movie off. Like if it wasn't for his
Yeah.
character, then things wouldn't have uh really progressed like they did and make sense.
I know, and even just the callback later when Leo's up there and pounding on his
Yeah,
chest and having all the guys do it, it's just great.
I know. It's a great movie. It's kind of I mean when you look at like Scorsese's filmography, it's kind of crazy, like the width of movies that
I
he's
know, because this
made.
one almost comes out of left field in a way.
Yeah,
Like,
but it's also like so well done that you're like, oh
yeah,
yeah, that's a
he definitely
Scorsese.
did this, right?
Yeah, yeah, I like this one a lot. So
I know, and I actually felt like, even though it's not like terribly old, I feel like the story really held up.
I do too. I mean, I know, I think like it being set in the past was helpful in general. And that time in like the 80s and 90s is so nostalgic anyway, but there's not one thing in this movie where you're like, oh, that's outdated, or oh, this just doesn't land today. Like, I think you really can just take the movie for what it is, even though, of course, there's like horrible things happening with like adultery and everything,
Right.
but it's like, okay, it's so fun that again, you don't really even care about that.
I know, and even just like the lighting and everything in it, where it feels modern and classic, but
Yeah,
also of the time. And I just think if we watch it again in 10 years, which I'm sure people will, I think it'll still hold up.
I agree. Yeah, it'll still be a well directed, a well shot film.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of different things to discuss today, different types of movies, but they kind of came together there at the end where we found our common thread.
I know, we did figure
But
it out.
yeah, I'm so happy that we were able to watch Sinners and talk about that. So if anybody has also watched it and you guys have comments about it, we'd love to hear it. If you enjoyed it as much as we did, or if you had criticism, we'd like to hear your thoughts too.
Yes, and I did want to touch real quick that I did end up listening to 12 Years a Slave, the book.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and the movie stayed, in my opinion, pretty true to the story in the book. So
Yeah.
I think they're a good pair together.
How
I just want to
long
say
was
that.
that book?
I think it was an 8-hour thing, but I had it on faster. But still, it's still because when we're just visually watching something on screen where he's telling about the scene
Yeah,
and the scenario and the landscape. So I feel like that's kind of just what added the time, or like just describing everything versus being able to see it really
yeah.
quickly and move
Well,
on.
and 8 hours is pretty typical for an audiobook, I would say.
Yeah.
So that's not really. I
No, it
honestly
wasn't
thought it
too
was going to
long.
be longer.
No, yeah, I was kind of surprised too. I'm like, oh, and I even got it, yeah, obviously, because I sped it up a little bit, but I got it done in less than that too. So,
Yeah. Nice. So I'm glad that it stayed true. That's interesting.
yeah, I just wanted to give that update.
Well, just to speaking of like staying true to the movie, or the book, it makes me wonder because this was based off of Jordan Belfort's book too. I don't
Hmm.
know if it was of the same name, but I know that it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that either.
Yeah. But it's just interesting because if things were based off of his book, it makes you wonder in general,
What's
like,
the
oh,
truth?
yeah, was this just his perception of everything, or yeah,
Right,
was it real?
right. Or like, what did they add? Like, did he talk about how he was maybe a little domestically violent with his wife?
Yeah,
Or is that what the filmmakers added to be a little more true to what actually happened?
that was interesting too because it really was only at the end that we saw
I
that.
know it. I thought that too, and honestly, it was kind of jarring to see him like hurt Margot Robbie, even though I was viewing her as her character, but that really, and then when he took the daughter and ran to
Oh
the car,
God.
that was really hard to watch this time. I
Yeah,
was like,
I
oof.
think that's like the worst part of
I
the
know it got
film.
scary. And I do like that they had that scene in there because the rest of the movie's so like fun and over the
Yeah,
top, crazy. And then it finally shows you no, then there's probably so many more moments of that that the movie chose not to show. But just seeing that, you're like, yeah, actually, this is a really rough situation and not everything is completely glamorous.
yeah, and whether the violent part of it was true or maybe embellished a little bit, I really think that the part where he tries to take the daughter, like I could 100% see that happen.
All
Like
right, after he did cocaine.
yeah, I mean, because you hear about that with normal families where they are like, you're not going to take my kids. Let's go. Like, I'm taking them right now. I want the control. Like, people literally just go into a freaking tailspin when there's
Mm-hmm.
talk of the kids being or not having custody or anything.
Right.
So, yeah, I believe that that was real, but it was very hard to watch that.
It was. Yeah, I was like, oof,
Yeah.
it's rough.
Well, should we wrap her up?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. I know we packed a lot into this episode, so hopefully you stuck with us the whole time and can enjoy some of our takes and our discussions here. Please be sure to tell a friend, give us a quick rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if you have extra time, make sure you give us a review too. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye.